Pay's checkout is offered by your banks and credit unions. So when you shop online at participating merchants, your cards appear in one place. Pay's. It checks out. Activation required. See Pays.com to learn more. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello there, Stanley Carr here. You know, I love collecting music and sports memorabilia. Want to know where you can find some? I'll tell you. Go to oldglory.com. This website features one-of-a-kind apparel from your favorite sports teams and musical artists. And I can help you get 15% off of all items. Use the code WWH135. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show. Before I introduce my guest today, I want to take this time to promote our brand new book. You can see it here on the screen, Champions for a Cause, Volume 1. It is a collection of interviews with some of your favorite wrestling personalities. I'm talking about Mark Marrow, Buff Bagwell, Jake the Snake Roberts, Tito Santana, and many others. It is available now on Amazon.com as a paperback at $15. I have been looking forward to this interview for quite some time. So glad we could finally make this happen. I'm talking with none other than WWE and ECW legend Dawn Marie.
Oh.
Welcome, Dawn, to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you. What a wonderful entrance. Thank you.
It is my pleasure. So talk to me about your childhood and upbringing. Where did you grow up?
I grew up here in New Jersey. I still live in New Jersey. I grew up in like a Woodbridge Township area. My dad raised me since I'm a little girl, since 5 years old. And it wasn't always easy. You know, it wasn't easy. We were not very wealthy at all. My dad was a zookeeper. He actually worked at the Staten Island Zoo. And, you know, it definitely was a road. 17, I wasn't getting along with my father's girlfriend and some other things that were going on. So I ended up, it was become very physical. So I left and fell through the school system, never finished. And I lived in my car when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So hard.
Been a long time. I've been on my own since then, but I wouldn't change anything. I really wouldn't. I know it's like a cliche, but it's good. It's tough. You know, it made me ready for the wrestling world and a lot of other things.
When you go back and think about like stuff from childhood, and I'm sure like there's like things to kind of like get you out of that funk, that escapism, like things that you always look forward to, whether it's going to the zoo or watching TV or whatever it is, any activities that little Dawn liked to do to take her mind off of all the negativity.
Of course, we watched Madison Square Garden. You know, my uncle Carl, which was also my godfather, he was a huge wrestling fan. My brother George was also a huge wrestling fan. My father, not so huge, but was a fan. And we would watch wrestling. You know, you always knew when WrestleMania was coming around because like little Dawn would start cleaning the refrigerator and start doing extra things around the house. We're like, hey, by the way, you know, but, you know, we never really were able to do that, you know, get the pay-per-views and stuff. But definitely Madison Square Garden was a staple in our home. Absolutely.
So you're wrestling fan since childhood. Who would you say were like your favorites, like growing up, that you just were like, man, these are my heroes. These are my guys.
Well, when I was younger, a younger me, I was going to be Mrs. Piper, probably my first crush ever. You could tell me no different, but I was going to be Mrs. Piper and no one was going to tell me anything different. But even younger, you know, me was probably like a Bob Backlund, Tito. I remember we would go to my uncle took me to some indie shows in the area, and there was Pedro and Larry Zbyszko, and so yeah, I'm kind of aging myself right now.
and the cool thing is like years later, you'd work with a lot of these people, especially someone like a Roddy Piper. What was he like to be around backstage? Was he just as animated as he was when you watched him as a kid?
Well, I have to tell you, the first time I met him was at the XWF, that group that Jimmy Hart and Hogan and everyone was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first time I've ever crossed paths with Roddy. And at the time, I was in the ring with Swinger and, at the time, Lance, Simon Diamond, right? So we're over here and we're talking to, Simon's cutting a promo, blah, 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 blah. And here comes Roddy to the ring. And he's standing on the outside. And of course, I'm supposed to be animated and listening to my guy, but I keep going like this. And I would get nudged and I would go, I was freaking out. That was the first time. I was like, oh my God, I'm in the ring with him. And then the second time we actually met and were able to speak was when I was with WWE. Right? Prior to him starting with WWE, they have these little interviews they do with the talent and Brooklyn Brawler. And he would video these just B-rolls and stuff and keep it on file. And I had told the story how I was going to be Mrs. Piper one day. This was like a year or so earlier, maybe longer. And then here comes Roddy. So, of course, Roddy's watching everyone in the ring prior to the show. I walk up there because I'm like, I'm going to pick his brain. I'm going to go sit next to Roddy. I got to figure this out. So I go and I sit down next to him. And then Brawler comes over and he goes, oh, so I see you met Dawn Marie. He's like, yes. Very nice girl. He goes, oh, did she tell you she was going to be Mrs. Piper one day? And I just looked down. I was like, oh, I just walked away. But he was a very nice man, very friendly at the time prior to me being humiliated and walking away. He was definitely sharing his wisdom, and a lot of the old school guys, they're so good with giving their business to, passing along the business. And that's what wrestling was back then. You were given the business. You didn't just pay for school.
Yeah. And it's like, when you start out, it's a very tough industry, and you have to really get thick skin to be able to fit in.
Even saying it, thick skin is not even saying it.
Well, did you know? At what point did you decide this is what I would like to do? This is the path I choose. I want to be a professional wrestler. I want to enter in the business. Did it just come by accident, or did you decide? Since childhood, I grew up watching this. Let's go.
Never an aspiration or dream. I never thought in a million years. After, like I said, I started very young on my own. And then I put myself through school. I went to the NYU business school, not the Stern business school. They have a different division where what I went for was I was appraiser for commercial investments. So I would tell you what skyscrapers were worth. Okay. And that's what I graduated with. And I was working in Manhattan at the time, and I was absolutely miserable. And I was doing that. And prior to that, to put me through school, back in the day when it wasn't cool, I was a go-go dancer in New Jersey. And, I was in the bar since I'm 17 years old. And that's what put me through school. So I left the bar, and I went and had this wonderful job, thought I made it. Was so unhappy. But prior to that time, I was also modeling and acting and taking classes in the city. I was trained in the city to be an actress. But when it didn't work out and I finished school, I took this job. So you remember those Spencer posters? I don't know if you probably don't remember them, but back in the 80s, there were these big posters that Spencer used to have of these girls with hay in their stalk in their mouth or on the car and stuff like that. These old style posters. I used to do those back then.
Okay.
So I wasn't going to be doing any of that anymore. I had a friend that I knew through the go-go bar. And he used to sell stuff online. And he says, listen, I have a bunch of those posters. Will you just sign them up for me? I'll pay you a few bucks. Just sign them up. Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. I don't care. I'm never going back. It's whatever. So when he came to my house for me to sign them up, he started talking about wrestling. I never knew he was even involved. Like that we never discussed wrestling before. So what he used to do was he would do some promotional work for small indie shows. When WWE would come out to like Linden and Kingsburg and these areas in town and put on the smaller shows. And he would help promote them. So he starts telling me about this. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like so much fun. Oh my goodness, I would love to do that. I could be like the next Miss Elizabeth. Like, meanwhile, I haven't watched it in probably decades at that point. You know, life was happening. So that was it. That was the end of it. Like a week later, he calls me up and he goes, I got you on a show. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, I called up my friend, cousin Luke. He has an indie show in New Jersey. And he said that he would do me the favor, bring you in. Because you said that that's something you would like to do and try. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I never even, it was just me talking to talk. And anyone that knows me knows I just talk. You know, I talk a lot. So he goes, well, can you just do this one? Because I called in a favor. I thought you were serious. I was like, all right. So I took my acting skills, put together this little character or whatever. My first match ever was I managed Jimmy Snuka against Tony Atlas. And I remember when I walked out of that curtain, to this day, decades and decades later, I could tell you exactly how that room was set up. I could tell you what the air smelled like. I could tell you how many rows were there. I could tell you everything. It was like a dream sequence. You ever see on TV where everything becomes like this epiphany and everything goes in slow motion? That happened to me in real life. And I just remember walking out of the curtain and looking and I go, holy cow, this is what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life. I don't know what it is, but this is it. So that was a Friday. Monday, I called up my boss in New York. Now, mind you, I was a director of international real estate firm at the time, overlooking St. Patrick's Cathedral off of Fifth Avenue. And I said, I'm sorry, Patty, I'm not coming back. Now, this was my professor in school that took me from school and gave me a chance. And then she said, what do you mean? I said, I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. She goes, we'll talk about it when you come in. Oh no, Patty, you don't understand. I'm not coming in to get my stuff. Throw it out. Throw my licenses out. Throw the contacts out. Throw it out. I'm sorry, but if I come in, you're going to talk me out of this. I know what I have to do. Thank you for everything you've ever given me, for your opportunities. I threw out everything. Now, mind you, I was not young. I was already in my 20s. I'm a lot older than the other girls that I worked with. I'm going to be 56 soon. So, like, I think Torrie just turned 50, and she was, like, one of the older ones, right, at the time. So, I was in my 20s, went back to the bar, got my old jobs back, and I would drive anywhere from Florida to Michigan for $50, $25 just to learn. And I just knew it's what I was supposed to do. I can't explain it.
You hustled.
Yeah, I worked really hard. You know, I wasn't one of the, I didn't get involved through a boyfriend or a friend or anything like that. I just had this epiphany, knew this is what I was supposed to do. I don't know how. And I found a way. And I would literally drive through the night as a young girl because I was afraid to stop in the middle of the night. And then I would sleep in hotels during the day.
Yeah, it's like you're constantly making sacrifices. And this is something that you wanted to do and got into, here you are, and you really have to constantly work and grind so much until you find that place, you find that peak of the mountain that you stand on. Eventually, after doing some time on the indies, you make it to ECW.
Yes.
And this is one of the biggest wrestling promotions in the world. Leading up to the moment of getting recruited to ECW, who would you say were people that kind of guided you along, mentored you along, gave you any advice that you've applied to today, all these years later?
I have to tell you, everything fell in line in a sense. I've had some of the most amazing mentors. Like I said to you before, the business used to be given to the next generation. You didn't go and pay for it, right? So as I was working up and down, and the old timers would see that I was working hard and I was trying, and I wasn't sleeping around and figure it out or anything like that. A lot of them took me under their wing to teach me, So Jimmy Snuka, Captain Lou would help me. Jimmy Snuka was a huge part of my success. George Napolitano met me through Jimmy Snuka at a show in New Jersey. Jimmy would always have me after he met me, he would bring me on all the shows with him. He would have the promoters bring me. He's like, and I can remember being across the table from him one time in the diner and before a show. And I'm like, Jimmy, why do you help me so much? Why? You don't try to sleep with me. You don't hit on me. You're always talking to me. He was always telling me stories and, like teaching me. And he said, sister, because in this business, you pass it on. He goes, when you find someone you see something special in, you take the time and you teach them and you give them the business. You give them your business. Because if you don't do that, my legacy stops with me. The business ends. Okay? And he's like, all I'm going to ask from you is that when it's your turn, you do the same. So that all my work doesn't go to waste. All your work, those nuances, the things you learn only from other people that have the experience. And I was just like, whoa, okay. That was pretty deep, So I had Jimmy. Jimmy introduced me to George Napolitano. George saw something in me. He made sure that man single-handedly, between him and Jimmy, he made sure I was in every single magazine, even if it was a little tiny picture. Even if they didn't write my name, but just always had somewhere in the magazine a picture of me from the day we met. Every single magazine. And he was an angel. I would not be standing here right now if it was not for George Napolitano.
One of the most iconic wrestling personalities, photographers, writers, and I just feel like he's someone that doesn't really get a lot of credit that should.
Well, no. And you know what? I have to tell you, when I left wrestling, I stepped away. I didn't do anything for 14 years. I didn't take appearances. I didn't take nothing. I literally divorced the business. My children didn't even know that I was a wrestler. Okay? Like nobody. Nothing. Like it was just, I divorced it to start my life over. About 2 years ago, I ran into George. I ran into him on my second appearance back in Philly, WrestleMania week. And I was so elated that I saw him and I grabbed him. I said, George, please come here. And, of course we hugged and, hey, how are you? And I grabbed him and I just looked him in the face and I said, I am so grateful that I saw you today because I want to be able to thank you for a beautiful life. And he just looked at me and I said, I want to thank you for a beautiful life. I would not be standing here right now without you. And I want you to know that I recognize that and that you have done it for so many. And I love you and I appreciate you. And I'm not saying because I want gratitude. What I'm saying is No, people don't realize sometimes you have to be thankful and thank those people that have helped lift you through the years, no matter how small or how big. You know, if Jimmy didn't introduce me to him, who knows? You know, it's like,
you always want to do good and shake hands with people that are helping you up the ladder, because you're going to see them on the way back down.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely will. They're waiting for you on the way back down. Trust me. They're not going to see you. They're waiting for you. But, you know, like, I was just so grateful that I had that opportunity to be able to thank him. And the look on his eyes, I could tell not too many people have ever done that, you know. But
very touching.
Wonderful, genuine man. He's a wonderful man. But I've had so many. Buddy Landell. I could tell you stories forever. Buddy Landell. I had Missy Hyatt. Missy Hyatt broke me in the hard way. You know, you hear about those ribs back in the day where they totally torture people and this and that, and it makes you respect the business. That was my Missy. Missy today is my ride or die. Like, she's my girl. She's my friend. She's my best friend. She's my sister. She's the person I'm bringing to the front line with me. But let me tell you something. She broke me in so hard when I first started. And I'm grateful for it because it really made me appreciate it more, you know? And at least I could say now, like, as a historian, I can say, yeah, I was broken in the hard way. Like people don't get broken in anymore, you know? So it's kind of cool. Just so many. Paul Heyman, Lance Storm, Shane Douglas, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko. I was a fit Finley. I've been blessed with so many mentors that genuinely cared about my success.
And the thing is like, when you meet so many people that are willing to help you, you know, you have to make it your business to network and schmooze and get along and find ways to keep those relationships really going and keep them intact as much as possible. You know,
well, the way you do that is by honoring them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about just keeping it for schmoozing. It's having real genuine respect for the fact that you were chosen by them for them to teach you and hand down and give you their business.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a true appreciation for that and respect for that, they know that, you know, and my job and the way I do that is by working my ass off, never letting them down, not doing anything that I was ever taught not to do. You know, it was a lot of politics, a lot of political games in the back, a lot of do's and don'ts, more don'ts than do's. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you respected them and their business, because it wasn't mine, it was theirs, is to honor what they taught me.
So you get to ECW. Did Paul recruit you to come join the promotion, or did anybody come to your shows to kind of scout talent? What led you to join ECW?
I wound up running into on indie shows the Pitbulls.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Pitbull first, and he saw something. And then he was doing a show out here in Jersey, I think I don't even know, Jersey All Pro or something like that. And I went and did the show with them. Okay. It's just, and then from what I learned later, many years later, Paul and Bubba were at that show scouting. Okay. They saw me, whatever. Months and months had gone by. Terry Runnels was supposed to be going into ECW against Tammy Sytch, coming in off her sunny days, right? Because she was not under contract at the time because she was still negotiating. So anyway, Vince wrapped that up. Terry couldn't come and do it. They needed someone like last minute, literally day of, that they felt could do the job. They remembered me. Bubba remembered me from that event. He's like, how about that girl Dawn Marie? We see her a lot in magazines. She was there. They called me. Bubba called me and invited me down for a one shot. Just because they needed someone to go against Tammy. And at that time, Lance Storm was in a feud with Chris Candido. That was it. I was going to be gone. That was it. Eaten up. A week later, I got a call from Bubba. He's like, we'd like for you to come in for another 3 gigs. They're in New Orleans, blah, blah, blah. Are you interested? I'm like, of course I am. And then I said, well, where do I get my tickets or whatever? You know, he's thinking, I'm in Jersey. It's New Orleans. He goes, what do you think? You're a prima donna now? You think you're something special because you did one arena show? Because if you want it, these are the names of the buildings. These are the names of the town. We'll see you there. So I got in a car and I met up with some friends, drove down. I was there. I did the 3 shots. The chemistry between Lance and I was undeniable. And yeah, time went by. Paul gave me a contract.
And the rest was history.
Yeah. But very lucky.
So you got to work with Sonny, Tammy Sytch, upon arriving in ECW. What was it like getting the chance to work with her, be around her during this time?
It was intimidating. You know, back then, you have to realize when I started with Tammy, that was the age of the fitness models. You had your Torrie Wilson, your Trish Stresses, you know. Tammy had a cute little body on her. I had no boobs. I was like this little, you know, I was completely the opposite of that at the time, right? And her coming off her sunny days. I mean, it was so intimidating. And to be at ECW was so scary because all you do is hear stories, right? So you don't even know. And you know what? I'll be honest with you. Other than that, I had no other thoughts other than, okay, you need to figure this out and make it work. You just need to get out of your own head and just do it. Just get out of your own head and do it. And honestly, that's the only way I got through it in the beginning. But I love working with Tammy. Tammy and I became very close after that. You know, she has her demons, but, you know, we bonded we had a very tight bond during that time because, we did look out after each other at that time. You know, me as being the underdog, not really knowing, and her with her problems, I would watch out and make sure she was okay and safe. So we became very bonded. When I talk to you about a bond and a friendship, it was like a kinship of us both working hard for the same thing, but for different reasons, right? And we needed each other for different reasons. Like I never really hung out with her outside then, all through my ECW and WWE days. It really, after my WWE days, I did spend more time with her on the outside. ECW was a very unique place. Okay. It's different than WWE in a sense of everyone there was trying to make it to the game. Right? Where when you're at WWE, you're trying to stay in the game. 2 very different beasts. Right? And this business is about spots. That's it. There's only so many hours. So many minutes could be filled with only so many people. ECW did have its camaraderie. We were very tight in a sense where we did look out for each other. But we all, and I don't care what anybody says, we were all gunning for that spot. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's sort of like that brother and sister thing. I could do whatever I want to you and be mean to you, but no one else is going to be.
Sure.
You get my point?
Sure.
Like that's,
sure.
You know, but no, I've made some good friends that, you know, in ECW, you know, and not so.
You get to manage and work with some of the most legendary figures in the game. I'm talking about Lance Storm and Simon and Swinger and so many of the other people, the Impact players. I mean, can't get any better than that.
I was blessed. I had Lance Storm. Okay. He's nothing but a gentleman. He's kind. He's generous. You know, he would protect me from a lot of the things that were going on. I had Shane Douglas. You know, when we were in a program with him, even after the program, I would pull Shane to the side and be like, Shane, tell me about my position. No, teach me. And he would literally break it down into why I should be standing here and not here. Why you do this and not that. You know, it wasn't, you know, Shane's a ring general. Period. He's a ring general. So when he dissected my work, he taught me that kind of stuff. Like, you were here, but it would have been tighter if you were here. And this is why. Things that, and this is what I mean by when they gave you the business. The business was passed down. It's those nuances, those little things that make the world a difference, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I had some really amazing mentors. I had Paul Heyman. I had Paul Heyman in my corner, you know. Paul gave me the confidence in myself to go out there with an open mic and be me and not be afraid. You know, his genius is, people talk about his genius is that he sees in people their strengths. He sees their weaknesses. He'll expose their strengths, right? Hide some of their weaknesses while they're working on them, because you had to work on weaknesses. He didn't just hide them for you. You better be working on them or you're out of your spot, okay? But he believed in you because he truly saw something, and he believed in us way before we did. And when you have that support and someone that's that confident in you, when you go out there, it's a different animal. You're not afraid. You're nervous, but you're not afraid. Like you start to become more in your own feet. Like, you know, you're more grounded in what you're doing, and you're confident, and that all those nuances that come with that follow. Exactly. You know, so yeah, I mean, I had the best teachers in the world. I was very lucky.
And then you get to WWE. You're on SmackDown. You get into this program with Torrie Wilson. It's probably one of the most legendary feuds of that time, the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And one of the highest rated feuds, I feel like, in SmackDown history.
It was. No, legit, it was. I actually read something recently. Someone has sent it to me. And even like, it was like the highest rating, and no one really ever acknowledged it, you know? And it was quite funny. Like, we didn't even know. They didn't even tell us. I didn't find that out until after I was gone. They didn't even tell us. How crazy is that, right?
It's unbelievable. What was it like getting the chance to work with Torrie, working with her, talking to her backstage about ideas and the whole Al Wilson wedding angle?
Torrie's wonderful, you know. Torrie was very generous. She lent us her father. She let me do some crazy things with her father. You know, things that I wouldn't even want to see my own father ever even think of my father doing. It worked. It worked, you know. And again, we both weren't wrestlers. We weren't seasoned wrestlers, but we helped each other through what we were doing, and there was a kinship. I was lucky we had a good bond that did help with that,
Yeah. And when you look at like some of the producers at WWE that were there at the time, like Fit Finlay, for example, has gone above and beyond with working with all the girls, really helped make that women's division so special and so unique. And I feel like he really doesn't get enough credit for being able to help with that.
Fit went beyond being our mentor and our coach. He became our father figure, I can remember some of the best advice personal best advice I've ever gotten in my life was from Fit Finlay when I was going through some hard times personally. He was not only a mentor, a teacher, he was our mental and emotional stability as women in the industry at that time, going through a big change. And his wife was wonderful with us. She's an amazing woman. And, when she would come around, she was just as loving and nurturing.
You've had the opportunity to be a part of so many different storylines and feuds. What would you say would you say have been some of your favorites that you've gotten to be a part of?
My absolute utmost favorite match ever was when I walked out of Gorilla and I got to look down in the ring and see Mae and Moolah. Yes. Was it a great storyline? No. Was it a great technical match? No. But me, little Dawn, that used to watch MSG and Wendy Richter and Cyndi Lauper and Captain Lou and be like, whoa, bigger than life. Like, I can remember right now just standing there looking down going, holy shit, I made it. Like, that was the absolute moment when I looked down and said, I made it. So, it's not necessarily about the storylines, or it was just like the period at the end of a very difficult childhood that had my happily ever after my ending. And I can think of that day as that.
Did you have the chance to talk to them backstage or at certain points of your career? Did they give you any pointers or anything that
Moolah was awesome, but I was such a mark. They used to make fun of me because I'd be like, oh, Miss Moolah, do you want anything? Do you want Miss Mae? Come on, let me carry that for you. I did anything I could do for them. Like, they were, and Moolah appreciated it, and she knew where I was coming from. I wasn't being like annoying. I was doing it not only as a fan, but out of immense respect. It was out of respect, not being a fangirl, but really out of this so when we were in the ring and we were talking about the match, it was me and Torrie against them too. Moolah says to me, she's like, when we break off, you got me, I got you. And I was like, okay. And then Bubba comes over to me later on. He goes, what did you do to piss Moolah off? And I go, nothing. Why? She likes me. He goes, I don't know about that. I heard what she said to you. She said that when we break off, she got you. She's going to kick your ass. What did you do? And then I'm going, did I do something? Because you second guess yourself nonstop in wrestling because you always think you're doing something wrong. But it wasn't. She just trusted me and she wanted to work with me. And I took that as the most amazing honor ever.
Yeah, it's definitely something you'll always remember, getting the chance to be in the ring with such legends like Mae and Moolah. Can't ask for anything better than that, really.
No, but I've been in the ring with some of the best in the world, and I was so lucky. You know, I mean, I did a tag team with John Cena. I did, you know, I've worked with Eddie in the ring. I've worked with the best, you know. I'm so fortunate to have experienced that, you know, and at that time we had so many great mentors. Like if we were talking over tag matches, you know, Arn would step in and try to teach us and talk to us. Like, you're not going to learn any better, you know, psychology than from Arn when it comes to tag team matches, you know. If you want to keep it in the center, there's Dean Malenko. He was right there to teach us, you know, keeping it tight right in the center. You know, you wanted someone to teach you how to have flair and do everything perfect. You had Eddie, you know, or how to be that great heel, you know, that heel that gets cheered and booed all at the same time, you know. I had Stephanie. Stephanie always pulled me to the side and would like talk to me and help me. I mean, she was really one of those women that when she walked out, as beautiful and hot and sexy she was, like you would get those boos. And it's not easy to get boos when you're a sexy, beautiful woman. It's just not.
There's a craft, and you have to find ways of perfecting it, and it takes practice, and you really have
nuances. Yeah. What
would you say has been like an influence of yours as far as character work? Because it seems like when you watch tapes or when you watch film or when you come up with anything that you can take from a certain piece of media and kind of take little bits and pieces and combine them, what would you say was like something like that for you?
You know what? There's no individual. There really isn't. I would be lying. Are there people that I was fans of? Yes. But you're asking me what did I use to incorporate into
your style?
There was not one person. I would watch and I would see little things and I would create my own montage. Okay. Because I'm a true believer and they already had a Sherry Martel. They don't need another one. They already had a Miss Elizabeth. They don't need another one. They had a Luna Vachon. They had Ivory. They had just Jack. I need to not be them, but I sure the hell can learn from all of them. Pluck out the things that I feel I can incorporate and be Dawn Marie. You know, and I always tell new talent, like, I want to be like da da da. I'm like, no, you don't. There's already one. Be you. You could admire them. You could study them. You could look up to them. You could, you know, learn, but make it yours.
Exactly. You got to put your own stamp on your own character. You really have to figure out like who you are, who you want to be, what do you want to do? And that's kind of like what you did.
Yeah. I mean, like, listen, was I a technician? No. So I'm not taking an arm drag from Ricky Steamboat. You know, I'm not going to try to do it like I no one can. So how can I say I want to be? I can't. But there were things that I could possibly do that he did that I could make into my own and incorporate it. And you get what I'm trying to say?
Exactly. Like, you can be influenced, but not do exactly
right.
Do the same thing.
One, they already had it. It's probably already done better. And the bar, why are you going to put yourself against a bar that's already this high? That's just setting yourself up to fail. Like, really, you got to go in there and say you're the master of suplexes when you have Brock or you know, you have Kurt Angle. Like, do something different. Can you add a suplex to your arbitrage? Yes. Can you do it and learn little like snaps and how they maybe time things? Yes. But you know.
Exactly.
No.
Outside of the ring, I think this is very fascinating. You decided to become a nurse, a registered nurse. What made you decide to go that path?
The wrestling business was so dirty. And so back then it was a different beast. So political, so dirty, so manipulative, so calculated. In order to be successful, you had to think 20 steps ahead of everything you did. Am I doing this? And it's not that you're doing it necessarily to be a bad person. You just made sure you did it in front of the right people. You get what I'm trying to say? You would have done it anyway, but you're just making sure that you did it over there and not over here. It's what it was, you know? And sometimes to be in the business, you had to, like I said, it's all about spots. Okay? And you're protecting your spot. And I always made sure, I said there's two kinds of people in the business. There's people that love what they do, and there's people that love who they are when they're doing it. The people who love what they do will work hard on their craft and become the best that they can to keep successful. And the people that love who they are when they're doing it will do everything in their power and work just as hard as the other one to get them out, to elevate. So you're always, it's not always a very friendly place to be. Okay. I'm giving you the full scoop. I'm not going to pull any punches. You know, that's a fact. And so I was the one that really worked hard at my craft. Clearly, I mean, I left for 14 years and never looked back. You know, I loved what I did when I was doing, you know. I became a nurse because I wanted to find a career that was not self-centered, like I had to be selfish and self-centered. Every minute of every day was about me. I woke up, I counted my water, I counted my carbs, my input, my output. I went to the gym. Then I did this. It was always self-centered. You have to be at that level. And I wanted the second part of my life to be the exact opposite because I really never felt good in those shoes, but I loved being in wrestling. But unfortunately, that was what I had to do to be there. So I chose to be a nurse because being a nurse, you do just to do. You do without anyone watching. You're kind to be kind. You're helpful to be helpful. You go out of your way to go out of your way. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with just doing the right thing and being a good human being. And I truly wanted the second part of my life to be completely opposite, especially being a mother. And that's why I ended up becoming a nurse.
Wow.
Yeah, and I love it. I love being a nurse. I love it. I specialize in geriatric, and I specialize in locked dementia, like end-stage dementia, where they're very confused. I find it so, like, I've been so blessed in my life because I've been able to say, I've had 3 careers in my life that I go to bed at night and I can't wait to wake up in the morning to go to work. Some people don't get to say that once, you know? And as a nurse, I do that. And I also say, if I had to do my life over again and I could only pick one career, I would pick being a nurse. Period. I like who I am and how I feel being a nurse. I didn't always like who I was and how it made me feel when I was doing wrestling, something that I loved.
Well, you're going out and you're helping save people's lives that are in need. You're working, as you said, the geriatric patients. What would you say has been the most rewarding part about choosing this career path and being a nurse?
The relationships. Because I work with geriatrics, I'm not fixing them. I'm not curing them. They're there. I help treat their symptoms. I help bring them peace and comfort and stability. I build a relationship with them, right? So that, and the family, the relationship, it's all about the relationship. And then on their worst day, my goal is that on their worst day, they could look up and be like, I'm scared, but I know you got me. And that's when they're past, when they're dying. And to see that in someone's eyes is the most humbling, most greatest reward you could ever receive. Like, I feel that when I'm with someone when they're dying, like when they're actively dying, and I'm helping them through that process, and I have that relationship with them and the family, I feel like that's just as monumental or special as someone that brings babies into the world. I'm helping someone leave the world in a very comfortable, and I just find that so amazing and beautiful, and I'm honored that I'm able to do that.
It's a hard thing. It seems very stressful at times when you're with these people, with these patients that are like basically like the last days of their life, and you just never know when that last day could be. And it's like you really want to make sure that you're giving them the time that they need to be able to enjoy the moments that they have. And we all want to be grateful and be thankful that we're here. We're all alive and we're all doing the things that we need to do. But it's tough. It's tough being
really
able to be around people that are going to be on the verge of not being around.
Well, not everyone is blessed with going to sleep and not waking up. So there's a process. Death is a process. And it's called actively dying, and that could go on for days. It's very hard on the family, very hard on the patient. I feel that I'm very lucky to be able to be a part of that journey in someone's life, which now brings me to my crystals.
Let's talk about that.
Through being a nurse, I realized I became a better human being. I became more appreciative of life, waking up in the morning. There's always that cliche, oh, you're lucky you woke up in the morning. Like, no, I understand what that means, because at my age, I'll go into some of these facilities and there's people my age that are stuck there forever, or debilitated or in their bed forever or whatever. Sometimes I do traumatic brain injuries. I do other things than just dementia, but so when I walk into a room and I see someone my age or close to, how does that, when you're faced with your own mortality every day, how do you not become a better human being? How do you not appreciate every little thing that happens? You do, because it's there. It's not a story. I see it. I'm with them. I experience it. And so I don't even know where I started with that, but with the crystal. So when I saw that, I started to reflect, and I started realizing that it's a journey, a spiritual journey, and we can go on and on. That'll be a whole other hour. But I do crystal lives, and I teach people how to use the crystals. And it's a metaphysical science, the way I teach it. It's not like, hey, this is going to bring you luck, or, Wicca, or this or that. I mean, I don't begrudge anyone that does that. That's them, whatever. But that's not how I teach and how I use them. I use them purely based on a metaphysical science, and I teach everyone what that means. Everything in the universe has a vibration. Why? You have electrons and protons and neutrons that are held together by an electronic magnetic force, right? Electromagnetic force. Depending on what that chemistry of negative and positives will create a vibration. That's science. Period. That's not wishing. That's science. And that's the base of how I teach how to use them. These are nothing more than calibrators. This will always be pink amethyst. It's a calibrator to our own selves and how to use it to get back into our normal vibrational range for optimal health. And that's what I teach.
How long have you been doing this for?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. I built my company without wrestling. It was really important to me that I built it without introducing it to wrestling. And I did. And I now, for like the last 2 years, I do bring wrestling into it. I do lives every Monday and Thursday evening at 7 p.m. And my lives aren't really based on like, hey, buy this, buy this, buy this. It's education, and I teach. And hey, if it resonates with you and it's something you think you may need, buy it. If not, we learned something new and we had a great time. It's very interactive. I talk with them. We laugh. We have a great time. I have a great community of people. It's changed my life. It really has. It's a different caliber or a different lifestyle when you live with crystals and the way that we use them. It's just being good, the best human you can be, and that's what I try to teach.
What is it about giving back to the community, being a nurse and being a teacher and doing all these things that gives you the most joy?
I tell people this when I'm teaching. There's two entities here right now. There's my soul that's here, that's on a journey, a path to thrive, to grow, evolve. But unfortunately, it's stuck in this human body that's really flawed. Okay, it is like my antagonist. Like in any good movie, anything worth reading, watching, and experience, you have that. So what I love about it is that your soul, as it thrives, grows, and evolves, which is its purpose, your human side gets to experience it and enjoy it or not enjoy it or whatever it is. So my path, my life's path, my journey, my purpose, because we have way bigger purpose than just being here, right? Like, oh, here I am, I'm going to be a wrestler. That's not my purpose. That's just part of my journey, right? So what brings me so much joy is that I feel like I'm on my path and I'm on my purpose, and I'm able to share that with other people. And it's from a good place, and it's a helpful place. And I just want, I don't know. I guess it's like from wrestling, you give your business to someone else, you pass it down to the next generation. This is how I was taught, right? So now that I found this, and I'm like, okay, wow, okay, I'm going to teach this. We're going to learn together. My first live ever was, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what this is, but I know I'm supposed to be doing it. I love these crystals, so let's learn together. And like, that's how I started 7 years ago. I had no community. I had no one to talk to about them. I had no friends that did it. And I just wanted someone to do it with. And that's really how I started doing the lives.
And two, the fact that you're a nurse and you're being able to help all these people out. There's a positive side to that, though, because you're out there making a difference in other people's lives, and you're trying to pay it forward to people who need it the most.
Right. And as you do, you receive. Like, I feel good when I'm doing those things. So it is selfish also. It is self-serving, should I say, also. The way I feel when I'm doing it, is very addicting. Like it's very addictive. It's very all-consuming in a positive way. So trust me, I am receiving as much as I am doing. I'm not a saint. It is also self-serving in a sense.
You've been away from the business for such a long time, but you've been able to go to appearances and conventions. I've had the good fortune of meeting you at WrestleCon in Philadelphia a few years ago. And you also got to make an appearance in NXT a few years ago, yeah. WWE. What was it like being back there after so many years away?
Oh my gosh, that's a crazy story. I was on the nursing floor and all of a sudden I get this text. You know, I would like to speak with you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what? Okay, well, I'm on the floor. I'll call you on my lunch. And at first, when they kind of told me the idea, and I was like, I swear on my children, I go, you know I'm old, right? Like, you know that, right? I'm like, no. I'm like, you know, I can't do anything physical anymore. Like, my whole neck is metal. I had surgery many years ago. It's like, I can't do anything. Like, I'm old. And they're like, no, we don't expect you to do anything. And I wanted to say no. Just because wrestling was so far in my rearview mirror, I didn't know how to go back there. Not because of hate or anger or anything like that. I don't know who that is anymore. You know? But the businesswoman in me clicked in. And I was like, okay, Dawn, if you say no, you can't go back and say yes. So say yes. You can think about it. You can always go back and say no. Right? So that's really how it happened. And I'm grateful that I did do it because, you know, I got fired from wrestling when I became pregnant. Because I was pregnant. So there was some hard feelings or unsettled things for me career-wise. Like I felt, and I didn't even understand how healing it was going to be for me to go there and be able to have that period at the end of my career that 98% of people don't get to do. I got to go there. I got to resolve things in my own, you know, and be able to put that period at the end of my career and say, okay, chapter closed.
It's closure.
It was more closure than I could ever expect. You know, I was just like, wow. I didn't realize how badly I needed it. I felt like this huge, and it really had nothing to do with the performance as much as just being there.
Yeah.
And being received not only by the fans, but by the people in the back, old friends. It really was a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful experience.
And when you go to these conventions and signings, it really has to feel good when fans come up to you, talk to you, you know, tell these stories, share these memories of you being in the ring, you doing these, you know, awesome things with the people that you get to be around. It has to feel good all these years later.
It's very satisfying to know that you contributed in so many ways that you don't even realize. Like you, like as a person, you don't even realize how many people, like even like, you know, yourself, anyone, like it doesn't have to be famous. We influence people's lives every day by our actions or reactions. And we don't even realize it. And when I'm at these events and people come up to me and talk to me and tell me how it makes me feel joy to know, wow, that made a difference this person, is talking about something, or how I may have helped them with something, or whatever it may be. I just entertain them. I help them through puberty. I don't know, whatever. But to know that you had such an impact on someone's life that they actually have something that they come to you with, and they want to tell you about it. Like that moment with George Napolitano, to be able to share that with him meant the world to me, because it meant something to me. And it's the same thing, when a fan come over and watched my work and allowed me to have a beautiful life, and they come to me and tell me about it. It's like, wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, Dawn, I want to say thank you so much for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. So glad we got to do this. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube.
Thank you.
Where can people find out? You're welcome. Where can people find out more about what you're doing? And if there's anything you want to plug, feel free.
Yes. Crystal Vibrations with an S and healing.com. So Crystal Vibrations and healing.com is the website. But I also have my Instagrams and my social medias, my Facebook. We do lives every single Monday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Come hang out. Don't feel like you have to buy anything. It's very interactive. I always feel better when I leave. So great group of people.
Yeah. All right. Well, Dawn, thanks again. And you're more than welcome to come back.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. And again, get your copy now of Champions for a Cause Volume 1. It's our brand new book. It's out now in paperback on Amazon.com. $15. All your favorite wrestling personalities, from Mark Marrow to Buff Bagwell, Jake the Snake Roberts, Tito Santana, and so many others. Check it out. You do not want to miss it. I'm Stanley Carr, and I'll see you next time.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.